They called me paranoid for installing cameras when I moved back home. But I knew my brother wasn't just helping out. When I watched the footage from one night, I didn't sleep for 3 days. I quietly packed my things and set a trap that would change everything. I never thought of myself as paranoid. Cautious, maybe. Hyper-aware, sure. But paranoid? That's what they called it when I started bolting locks and scanning corners for shadows that didn't belong. Life has a way of teaching you to expect the worst. People let you down, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. When I inherited my parents' house after they passed, I thought it was a chance to start over. A clean slate. The house wasn't exactly a mansion, just a modest 2-story on the edge of town, surrounded by pines that whispered in the wind at night. It was far enough from the city that you could hear your own thoughts, but close enough that the world didn't feel too far away. Perfect, I thought. A place to rebuild. But something about the house never sat right. Maybe it was the way the floorboards creaked when no one was walking, or how the shadows seemed to shift in the corners of my vision. I told myself it was just grief playing tricks on me. Losing mom and dad in that car accident left me raw, like a wire-stripped bear. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Not in the ghostly sense, but something more grounded, more human. That's when I decided to install the cameras. I went all in. Front door cam with night vision. Backyard cam sweeping the overgrown garden. Motion detectors that ping my phone if a leaf so much as twitched. Indoor cams in the living room, kitchen, and one in the basement, where the air always felt too heavy. I even wired the attic, though I hadn't been up there since I was a kid hiding from Dad's bad moods. My friends thought I'd lost it. You planning on hosting a cartel? My buddy Mike laughed over beers one night. What's next? Tripwires and guard dogs. I forced a smile, but his words stung. Even my brother Jake, who'd always been the laid-back one, gave me that look, like I was one tinfoil hat away from a conspiracy podcast. Dude, he said, leaning against the kitchen counter, nobody wants your 5-year-old TV or that chipped IKEA dresser you call furniture. He wasn't wrong, but it wasn't about theft. It was about control. If someone was watching me, I'd watch them back. Jake moved in a few weeks after I settled. He'd been bouncing between jobs and bad decisions for years, and when he showed up at my door with a duffel bag and that sheepish grin, I didn't have the heart to say no. Just till I get back on my feet, he promised, tossing his bag onto the couch. I'll help with the house. Fix stuff. Whatever you need. I nodded, grateful for the company. Jake had always been the reliable one growing up, teaching me how to ride a bike, throwing punches when bullies cornered me in middle school, holding mom's hand in the hospital when the cancer took her. He was family. Blood. That meant something. But there was something off about him from the start. He'd linger near the cameras, tilting them slightly when he thought I wasn't looking. Once, I caught him unplugging the living room cam, muttering about bad wiring. I told myself it was nothing. Jake had been through a lot, failed business ventures, a messy breakup, whispers of debts he didn't talk about. Maybe he was just uncomfortable with the surveillance. Maybe he needed space. I ignored the itch in my gut, the one that whispered I was missing something. Then the weird stuff started. It was subtle at first, the kind of thing you'd dismiss as your own forgetfulness. A drawer in the kitchen left slightly ajar, its contents shifted just enough to notice. My razor in the bathroom moved from the left side of the sink to the right. The TV remote, which I always left on the coffee table, showing up on the couch or in the dining room. Tiny things, but they piled up. I'd lived alone long enough to know my routines, to sense when the rhythm of my space was off. I started double-checking the locks at night, running my fingers along door frames, looking for signs of tampering. Nothing. Just that creeping unease. I began reviewing the camera footage religiously. Hours of grainy video, timestamps ticking by in silence. At first, it was just me and Jake moving through the house, cooking, watching TV, him fixing a leaky faucet in the kitchen. Normal stuff. But the more I watched, the more I noticed Jake's patterns. He avoided certain cameras, stepping just outside their range. He'd linger in blind spots, like he knew where they were. I told myself I was imagining it, overthinking it. But that itch in my gut was clawing now, demanding to be scratched. Then, one night, I saw it. 2:13 a.m., timestamp glowing in the corner of the basement feed. Jake, in a dark hoodie, moving with purpose. He carried a duffel bag, heavy by the way it sagged in his grip. He didn't turn on the lights, just used the faint glow of his phone to navigate the stairs. His movements were deliberate, almost rehearsed, slow steps, head down, like he was avoiding an audience. He disappeared behind the shelves at the far end of the basement. An hour later, he came back. No bag. Just him, hands stuffed in his pockets, hood still up. The next morning, I played it cool. Couldn't sleep last night? I asked over coffee, watching his face. He didn't flinch. Yeah, went down to grab some tools, he said, sipping his mug. Thought I'd fix that loose shelf in the basement. I nodded, but my skin prickled. I checked the basement later that day. The shelves were fine. No tools were out of place. Just dust and cobwebs and the same junk we'd been meaning to clear out for years. Old furniture, boxes of mom's clothes, dad's fishing gear. Nothing looked touched. But that footage stuck with me. The way Jake moved, like he was performing for the camera. Like he knew it was there. I couldn't let it go. That night, I ordered a new camera, tiny, wireless, the kind you could hide in a smoke detector or a light fixture. I set it up in the basement, angled to catch the far wall where Jake had lingered. I didn't connect it to the main system. Didn't want any alerts pinging my phone. I just let it run, silent and unseen, recording to a cloud server only I could access. If Jake was up to something, I'd catch him. If I was wrong, I'd laugh it off and call myself paranoid for real. 3 days later, I got the footage that broke me. It was 2:11 a.m. Jake, in that same hoodie, slipped into the basement. This time, the new camera caught everything. He didn't hesitate, didn't fumble. He went straight to the shelves, gripped the edge, and pulled. They slid aside like they were on rails, revealing a door I'd never seen before. Not a closet, not a storage nook, a proper door, heavy and metal, with a keypad lock. Jake pulled a key from his pocket, not even glancing around, and opened it. He stepped inside, and the door closed behind him. The camera's angle was perfect. It wasn't a big room, maybe 10 by 10, with bare cement walls and a single bulb dangling from the ceiling. An old wooden desk sat in the center, cluttered with a laptop, a stack of external hard drives, and a notebook. But what made my stomach lurch was the laptop screen. It was a live feed of the house, multiple angles, some from my cameras, but others I didn't recognize. The kitchen, the living room, the hallway, and then my bedroom. Me, sleeping, oblivious, the timestamp showing just hours earlier. I couldn't breathe. My hand shook as I paused the footage, staring at the grainy image of myself, vulnerable in my own bed. I hadn't seen a camera in my room. It must have been tiny, hidden in the vent, the light fixture, somewhere I'd never think to look. Jake was watching me, recording me. Not just me, every moment of my life in that house. Changing, eating, talking on the phone, everything. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that laptop screen, those feeds, Jake's silhouette in the basement. I sat in the dark, replaying the footage, trying to make sense of it. Why? What was he doing with it? Was it just him? Was someone else watching? The questions churned, each one sharper than the last, until I felt like I was unraveling. The next morning, I played normal. Made breakfast, joked about the weather, watched Jake out of the corner of my eye. He was the same as always, easy smile, quick to laugh, asking if I wanted to grill steaks that weekend. But every word felt like a mask, hiding something I couldn't yet name. I didn't confront him. Didn't let on that I knew. I couldn't, not until I had answers. That night, I packed a bag, turned off my phone, and drove 2 towns over to a rest stop. I slept in my car, the seats reclined, a blanket pulled over me like a shield. But sleep didn't come easy. My mind raced, piecing together the last few months, Jake's late nights, his vague answers about where he'd been, the way he'd dodge questions about money. I needed to know what he was doing with that footage, who he was sharing it with, and why. So I set the trap. Update 1. The trap. I came back 2 days later, pulling into the driveway like nothing had happened. Went to see a friend. I told Jake when he asked, keeping my voice light. He didn't push, but I noticed the house was spotless, counters wiped, floors swept, like he'd been expecting someone. That set my nerves on edge. Was he covering something up? Preparing for a visitor? I smiled through dinner, but my stomach was in knots. While Jake was out the next day, I got to work. I swapped the hidden basement camera for an even smaller one, tucked into a crack in the cement wall, angled to catch the secret room's door and desk. I rigged a motion sensor on the door itself, wired to a silent alarm that would ping my phone the second it was opened. Then I added a dummy camera in the basement, obvious, blinking red light, impossible to miss. If Jake was checking for surveillance, he'd find that one and think he was safe. I didn't stop there. I swept the house, looking for his cameras. Found one in the bathroom vent, another in the hallway smoke detector, a third in the living room clock. Tiny, professional grade, wireless. Expensive. My skin crawled as I disabled them, careful not to leave fingerprints. Then I left again. Rented a hotel room 20 minutes away, one with strong Wi-Fi and a desk where I could monitor the feeds. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. Just watched the footage, waiting. 2:08 a.m. My phone buzzed. Motion sensor tripped. Jake was back in the basement, moving like a shadow. But this time, he wasn't alone. A man followed him, tall, mid-40s, in a dark suit that looked out of place in the damp, cluttered basement. His face was sharp, all angles, with eyes that darted like he was calculating every step. Jake led him to the secret room, and the new camera caught it all. They spoke in low tones, too quiet for the mic to pick up, but their body language screamed tension. The man handed Jake a small envelope, thick with what I assumed was cash. Jake hesitated, then slid one of the hard drives across the desk. The man pocketed it, gave a curt nod, and left. I froze the frame on Jake's face. No remorse, no fear, just a blank, practiced calm. My brother. The guy who'd shared a bunk bed with me, who'd snuck me beers when I was 16, who'd cried at Dad's funeral. He was selling something, maybe me, maybe others on those drives. I felt cold, like the air had been sucked out of the room. Was this blackmail? Voyeurism? Something worse? My mind spun with possibilities, each one uglier than the last. I couldn't wait anymore. I needed this to end. The next morning, I made an anonymous call to the police. Possible blackmail operation, I said, voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I gave them the address, sent encrypted clips of the basement footage, and promised to cooperate. Then I waited, heart pounding, watching the feeds from my hotel room. 3 days later, they raided the house. I wasn't there, but I saw it on the local news, cop cars, flashing lights, neighbors gawking from their porches. Jake was led out in cuffs, head down, hoodie replaced by a plain t-shirt. The man in the suit wasn't mentioned, but I knew they'd find the room, the drives, the laptop. Update 2. The truth comes out. The police called me in for questioning the next day. I told them everything, my suspicions, the cameras, the secret room. They didn't judge me for the surveillance. If anything, they said it made their job easier. The raid uncovered more than I'd expected. Jake hadn't just been filming me. He'd rigged cameras in places I hadn't even thought to check: bathroom vents, closet corners, the guest room where my ex, Sarah, sometimes stayed when we were trying to patch things up. Even the smoke detector in the hallway was a fake, hiding a lens that recorded every movement through the house. The laptop in the secret room was a goldmine. Hundreds of hours of footage, meticulously organized by date and location. Me, Sarah, friends who'd come over for game nights, neighbors who'd stopped by to borrow a ladder or drop off mail. Jake had been uploading select clips to a hidden server, accessible only through encrypted forums on the dark web. He wasn't just selling access, he was running a subscription service. People paid monthly for live feeds, curated videos, even custom requests. The man in the suit was a regular buyer, part of a network that stretched across state lines. The police were still tracking down names, but they warned me it could take months to unravel the full scope. The betrayal hit like a freight train. This wasn't just about money. Jake had taken my life, my privacy, my safety, my trust, and sold it to strangers. Strangers who'd watched me sleep, shower, argue with Sarah, live. I thought of every moment I'd felt safe in that house, every laugh, every tear, and realized it had all been exposed. Violated. I couldn't look at Jake's mugshot without feeling like I was drowning. He took a plea deal. 5 years for wiretapping, invasion of privacy, distribution of illicit material, and conspiracy. The prosecution hinted at more charges if he didn't cooperate, so he gave up names, servers, passwords. The man in the suit was arrested a week later, along with a handful of subscribers. But the damage was done. I'd never know how many people had seen those videos, how many were still out there, circulating in corners of the internet I'd never touch. I moved out 2 days after the raid, packed what I could fit in my car, and left the rest. The house felt like a crime scene, every room tainted by Jake's betrayal. I couldn't walk through it without seeing those hidden lenses, imagining eyes on the other side. Finding peace again. It's been almost a year now. I sold the house for less than it was worth, just to be done with it. The new owners didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer answers. I used the money to buy a small condo in another state, far from the pines and the memories. No family nearby, no old friends. Just me, a new job, and a chance to start over. I don't use cameras anymore. I tried, early on, thinking I could reclaim that sense of control. But every time I looked into a lens, I saw Jake's face, his blank stare as he handed over that hard drive. I saw the laptop screen, my own image staring back, unaware. So I ripped them out. All of them. My new place is bare, just locks and a deadbolt, and even then, I check them twice before bed. Therapy's helped. I go twice a week, talking through the anger, the betrayal, the paranoia that still creeps in. My therapist says it's trauma, that it'll fade with time. I'm not so sure. Some nights, I wake up in a cold sweat, certain someone's watching. I'll check the vents, the corners, the outlets, even though I know there's nothing there. I'm alone. But alone doesn't always feel safe. I've built routines to keep me grounded. Morning walks through the park, where the air smells like grass instead of pine. Cooking dinners from scratch, simple things like pasta or stir-fry, the rhythm of chopping vegetables a small anchor. Journaling, 2 pages and pages of thoughts I can't say out loud. It's not peace, not yet, but it's something close. A way to keep moving. Jake writes me sometimes. Letters from prison, full of apologies and excuses. He says he was desperate, drowning in debt, that he never meant to hurt me. I don't write back. I don't know if I ever will. The brother I knew, the one who taught me how to tie my shoes, who stood up to Dad when he got too drunk, who cried with me at Mom's funeral, is gone. Maybe he was never real. Maybe I just wanted him to be. They called me paranoid for those cameras. Laughed, rolled their eyes, told me to relax. But I was right. Those lenses, that overboard system, they saved me. They showed me the truth, ugly, shattering, but real. And in the end, that's what kept me alive. Sometimes paranoia isn't just fear. Sometimes it's the only thing that sees what's coming.